Hello, welcome to the Roundhouse podcast with Paul Solentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. Thanks very much for your time. We appreciate you listening. Our guest today is Rachel Swartz, assistant coach for the Wichita State women's basketball team. She joined Terry Nooner's staff in June. She's one of two additions this summer, along with associate head coach Melanie Balcom, who we will also be talking to soon. Rachel spent the 3 previous seasons as assistant coach and recruiting coordinator at Seattle University. That's in her hometown. Rachel played for Missouri State from 2013 to 17. She helped Missouri State win the Missouri Valley Conference in 2016. She played for Kelly Harper, who is now coach at Missouri, and assistant coach Jackie Stiles, who is, of course, a well-known Kansan and former Missouri State star. Rachel, welcome to Wichita and Wichita State. Tell us how you got started coaching and why is that your career path?
Thank you. That's quite an introduction and a lot of great names that I have to follow up. Coaching has been such a blessing, kind of a whirlwind in itself. It's kind of a crazy career, but got started actually. The list of greats, Kelly Harper and Jackie Stiles, I was fortunate enough to be coached by them at Missouri State. And during my time there, I absolutely loved it. I loved coming from, a West Coast city to the Midwest and had a great experience being coached under Kelly. As most players are, they're the most highly recruited player in their high school and their home state when they go play collegiately at that next level, especially the Division I level. And I was thrust into a great program, rich in culture, a winning culture, and a wonderful fan base. And I quickly realized I was a role player. I was a puzzle kid, puzzle piece, a glue kid for our program, for our team. And, that wasn't exactly what I wanted when I started playing as an athlete. But I quickly realized that's what winning teams have. That's a very crucial ingredient to the big puzzle. So I embodied that role and really just absorbed what my teammates needed, as well as just kind of started watching the dynamic of a staff and what Coach Kelly and our staff with Jackie and Jennifer Sullivan, who's also with her at University of Missouri, just watching their dynamic was really intriguing to me, and how Coach Kelly was able to build and teach, because you're great teachers and great coaches are teachers of the game first. And so watching her be able to create and establish a consistent winning culture really kind of piqued my interest, and I wanted to do that for the next generation.
So the reality, which, as you said, a lot of high school athletes would go through, that there's a lot of really good athletes on this team.
Yes.
When did that hit you?
I mean, pretty much right away. When I got to Missouri State, a highly sought after powerhouse mid-major university, we had P4, P5 level transfers in, and as a young athlete, I was working and playing alongside and practicing alongside grad students from Cincinnati, that were in my same position. And so you realize quite quickly the level of expertise and skill set that some of your teammates have, and just the size and athleticism, especially coming from a more of a West Coast style of play as an athlete myself into the Midwest. It's just different. It's more physical. It's more athletic. The players are dynamic. They're tougher. And so I just realized very quickly if I even wanted to set foot on the floor, I had to get tougher. And I had to get a whole heck of a lot better. And so that's what I really poured myself into. But then also just realizing the talent that you're around on a winning program. Not everybody can have, plays called for them and be the go-to player, but there's value in every position and every role on a team. And so I embodied that because it's what our team needed and it's what Coach Kelly needed at the time.
So how did you go about then grabbing a role where maybe you weren't going to score a lot every night, but you were going to set screens, you were going to rebound? How did you go about taking that role?
Yeah, it's a lot of those things that you just kind of mentioned are intangibles to winning. They're non-negotiables. And so I really just saw a lot of value in what I could contribute and how I could bring value to the team to get the W at the end of the day. And so a lot of those things start in practice. They're thankless jobs. It's the nitty-gritty things, and you're setting other teammates up for success. But at the end of the day, a winning team has a lot of winners on it. And so I was just able to, day in and day out, just work on consistency in those things and know that the reason other teammates that maybe were statistical leaders on our team were so consistent was because of the ways that I was able to help them out and set them up.
Do you think that then helps you coach athletes who may be in a similar position of you,
Yes.
trying to figure out I'm not going to score 20 points, how can I help?
Yes. Oh, most definitely. And even players that are statistical leaders, I've been at a lot of programs, been a part of athletes that have gotten drafted or gotten invites to, professional level camps, played overseas, and you work with all kinds of athletes. And every year, it doesn't fail. You have the group of freshmen that come in and they go through the deer in the headlights, phase of their freshman summer, or, the beginning part of the season where it's like, oh my goodness, there's so much to learn, the pace, the level, the physicality, it's just a lot different. And then you have athletes transferring in, players transferring out, you're learning this new system and of the dynamic of the team, right? And most definitely being a puzzle piece player, you're able to help those role players acclimate and really see value and take ownership in that role. But also you're able to help those higher level athletes understand the value that they need to place and instill on those teammates that are the role players, because you can't have one without the other, right? A successful winning championship level team is a machine, and you can't, right? The cogs aren't going to continue to roll forward if you don't have the pieces doing that.
Did you ever play horse with Jackie Stiles?
Oh, thank goodness I did not. No, I didn't. I wouldn't have even stood a chance.
I guess we should remind people she was a fabulous basketball player from Claflin High School here in Kansas, also a great track athlete, basically single-handedly won, I think, 2 state track meets not far from where we're sitting in what used to be Cessna Stadium, then had a great career at Missouri State, played in the WNBA, took the Lady Bears to the Final Four, so just quite the towering figure in women's basketball. Best memory of playing for the Missouri State Lady Bears?
Gosh, there's so many. Every season kind of had a life of its own, and I was really fortunate to have the same staff, and for all 4 years, really. And then that's really kind of an invaluable quality, too. So I know that's not a memory, per se, but especially in this day and age with the way opportunities in the portal and NIL works and how cutthroat, mid-major and high major universities are, that was a real blessing in itself. But I think memories, just when I think of Missouri State as a whole, just the culture and the fan base that we had, it was really unmatched. I think people really value good sports and good women's sports here in the Midwest. And that was a huge reason of why I decided to make that jump and move from Washington to Missouri, was just the donor support, the fan support, the alumni engagement that we had, and people of all ages wanted to come and support women's basketball. And, Jackie Stiles did have a big piece to do with that.
And so Wichita State fans, of course, would remember being in the Valley with Missouri State, one of the bigger rivals, and had some really good basketball games between those two programs. Favorite WNBA or NBA player?
Gosh, well, NBA comes to mind right away. Dirk Nowitzki, when he played in Dallas, I loved his game. I used to study it a lot growing up. He was a big guy like myself. He had a great, little mid-range game there. His back to the basket post play. He had a nice toolkit. So I would grow up and watch him a lot. And then, from the W, I love Breanna Stewart. I as a coach, I love her game, especially. I'm fond of it. She's dynamic. She's kind of a point forward, and as a recruiter, those are the types of forwards that you like to recruit, because she's a taller player with guard skills, right? She can stretch the floor. She can shoot. She can handle the ball. She can facilitate for teammates because she draws so much attention. And she's got a nice game inside, too.
Who are the professional players that you might text a YouTube link to, or Synergy, or whatever you do, one of your players, and say, hey, check out this footwork. This is what we worked on in practice. You can take a look at how this person does it.
Yes, I love that you asked that, because I actually do this quite a bit. So here at Wichita State, and every stop I've been at, I would do a lot of our post-player development. So that's my primary role and the primary position of players that I get to work with, and I love it, obviously. Having been in that position collegiately myself, that's kind of where my eye naturally goes to. And players that have great footwork, Aaliyah Boston, Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart, any of those real dominant size athletes in the WNBA typically are going to be players that all either show clips to, show film to, and then other great, collegiate level schools that always have great players in the post. Texas always has great players. Iowa is known for having great bigs as well. So we'll pull clips, from former players that they've had as well. And because footwork, passing, and decision-making is a huge piece, obviously, of what makes a great big. And when I say big, either the centers, right, the fives, or the forwards, and that could be a forward that's a little bit more of a face and play, or from a stretch, more trail post type of position, and those bigs are going to be able to shoot the ball as well.
Time for a trivia question. Against which opponent did you grab a career-high 10 rebounds?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Oral Roberts?
This is a good one. A win over Arkansas in 2016-17.
Oh, there you go. I actually remember that game quite vividly. It was a big scout. It was a big scout for our staff, and I think at the time Arkansas may have been ranked at that point. Or they were on they were on a winning streak at that point, and it was a big game. They came to Missouri State. It was a home game for us. Huge crowd, 4,000 or 5,000 people, and that's a great game specifically to point out. I mentioned my whole career I was a role player, but the thing with role players is you never know when your number's going to be called, and you have to step up in big moments, and that was a big moment that I was able to come in and contribute in a great way and help us get that win.
In 2014-15, you made one three-pointer.
Oh,
Who was the
probably
opponent?
the one in my career.
Who was the opponent?
Oh, gosh, I have no idea. Maybe Oklahoma State. I don't even know.
Also in a win, this one over Missouri.
Okay, there you go. So I'm a playmaker. I was a key contributing factor is what you're saying here. I love it. That's
Obviously,
funny.
in the big games, you were
That
there
is
to
funny.
contribute.
I was locked in. I love it.
Okay, you work with the post players, as you said. Describe overall philosophy working with the bigs.
Yes. So, the terminology is kind of funny that we use, but I say with post players, you have to be kind of a black hole when you think of outer space, right? So what are black holes known for? Everything gets sucked in there. So, great bigs have good hands, right? Meaning they can catch the ball. They're patient, right? And they can facilitate and finish. Those are big pieces of the puzzle, and there's obviously multiple layers to that. You need to have great footwork, but I believe great forwards and centers just keep things simple first. I'm a real big believer in you have to be able to do the basics well. At this level, at a high octave, right? Like you have to be really efficient, operate at an elite, efficient level consistently before you can continue to expand and grow your game. Because everybody wants to be great, right? Everybody sees Asia Wilson, everybody sees Breonna Stewart, but and all the flashy moves and the game-winning highlight plays. But a lot of those great players just can do the intangibles really well and really consistently. So big things we work on is passing and catching. Passing into the post, but also being able to catch and move with wherever those passes are coming from, being patient, being strong and solid, and then being able to finish around the rim. That's big, through contact or without. And honestly, when it comes to recruiting big players, you just want people that are reliable and consistent. You don't want to be questioning whether they're going to be able to catch the ball when you're throwing that thing in there. Are they going to be able to grab rebounds? That's another part of catching, right? Catching that ball with two hands through contact. And then are they just going to finish the dang ball? Are they going to be able to make layups? Can they catch those drop passes, those skip passes, and just finish consistently around the rim? So those are big things that we work on a lot on every school that I've been at, but a lot here at Wichita State, obviously, with it being a bigger physical conference. I know Coach Nooner has put a real emphasis for me on that, with our transfers and incoming players that have come, and then obviously expanding on that as we show continued improvement and efficiency in those areas.
So the center power forward position has changed a lot,
yes.
Probably over the last 20 years now.
Yes.
They like to shoot three-pointers.
Yep.
Stretching the floor can be really important.
Yep.
Has that changed how you coach? Because sometimes it's great if they can make three-pointers, but on the other hand, some of them just need to be near the basket, rebounding, defending, scoring around the basket. How do you coach that balance?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and to your point, yeah, the game is starting to change quite a bit. Definitely more guard heavy. And then I think as international play has definitely become more of a objective in recruiting, the gates are open and we can recruit, quite, I guess, more efficiently and effectively European players. So that's naturally created a more stretched, open, more European style of play. 4 and 5 outs really popular now. And big, long players have to be able to shoot. So that's kind of a recruiting thing and a recruiting philosophy depending on the system that you're putting in place. What we're going to be running, we do like forwards who can shoot the ball. And honestly, if you have a big center who can too, that's even better, right? And so, yes, that definitely contributes. Players that can't shoot, you're not going to be shooting. That might be something that where you work on over time, just in practice and individual skill sessions. But a big philosophy for us is we want you to be elite at what you're naturally comfortable and already come in with. We want to take that to the next level and have you be really efficient and operating, like I said, at that high level in those areas. And then we'll unpack that toolkit. But to your point, yes, the game is expanding. It's changing. We love recruiting long, tall forwards who can shoot the ball in that forward position or in that trail post position, which is, the big that's trailing at the end of like a transition offensive set in like a secondary offense type of scenario.
12 newcomers on the roster, 5 freshmen, 7 transfers for the Shockers.
Yes.
How is the coaching staff going about building bonds, chemistry in this group?
I met with one of our freshmen, Kaylee Lacey, this morning, just about how she was doing and how she was acclimating. And, we haven't actually had to force any of the team culture and the dynamic in terms of them bonding and getting to know one another, spend time together. It's all been very natural. It's been very organic. And I think as a coach, that's so refreshing and you want to see that because that means things are trending in the right direction, right? We want to be a player-led team. Most championship level programs are. And a sign that you're not headed in that direction is if you're really having to force feed things, right? But we have the ingredients that make up to where these kids are confident, they're opinionated, they're comfortable around one another. I think they also really feel like they can be themselves with this staff, and that's really important. You want that authenticity and the organic communication. And so, it's been really natural in terms of all the off-court culture building. And then on-court, like you said, 7 incoming players all coming from different programs, different coaching styles, systems, and philosophies is a lot. And then having 5 freshmen is a lot as well. But here's the great thing. You have 5 freshmen who have all been hungry. They're eager. We call, they're puppies. They're eager to learn. They just want to love you and be there. And they're sponges. And they work really, really hard, as our transfers do. And so it's been really refreshing, I think, for Coach Nooner and our whole staff, having some new staff members as well, including myself. We're all on the same page, and I think at ultimately the end of the day is we want to win. And so what does winning look like? And that's asking questions, that's making sure everyone's operating with the same goal in mind. And if you don't know, you ask.
So you would have started early June, correct?
Yep. June 1st.
The players started coming in. Take fans through the routine. What's maybe a typical week look like for Shocker basketball?
Yes, so our players, they're working hard. So we go through an 6 to 8 week summer training program. They're lifting 4 times a week right now and conditioning 3. And that's additional conditioning that they're doing with our strength coach on top of all of the conditioning and up and down that they get in workouts. So we get 8 hours a week allotted with our players right now in the summer session. Coach Nooner has opted for 4 of those to be with our strength coach and 4 of those to be on the court, which I think is a really nice balance, especially when you have a whole new roster, and almost half of those being freshmen, we really have to lay a great foundation. That's what summers are for, is laying the foundational intangible standards in the weight room, in conditioning, and then starting to build out, your offense and your defensive philosophies and what those pillars in the culture look like on the court. So they're in the gym, in the weight room at 6:45 in the morning. They get started around 7:20. They lift till about 8:30. And that includes, a lift and conditioning. Sometimes it'll go a bit longer. And then we're getting to work later in the afternoon, usually on the court for anywhere really from about 45 minutes to an hour and a half, kind of depending on how that day's makeup is. And then Right now we're really focused on our offense. We're installing a new offense. Coach Balcomb's kind of spearheading that with Coach Nooner. So there's a lot of teaching, as I'm sure you can imagine. Having those transfers in with totally different system experience, and then those 5 freshmen coming in for the first time at the collegiate level, really pace has been a big point of emphasis for us. It's been pace and passing. Can you communicate? Can you listen to instruction? And can you play with great pace when you're tired?
So you've had them for 7-8 weeks now.
Yep.
Give fans a few names. Who's adjusting quickly? Who should they be thinking about before they get a chance to watch them in Koch Arena?
Yes, we've got some great upperclassmen coming in. Mariah Vincent, she's transferring in from Missouri. She's one of our Houston, Texas natives. Gosh, it's funny because I love the kid, and she's kind of a jack of all trades. She can play 1 through 5. She can play every position on the floor. She's a Mustang. She is athletic. She's dynamic. She's confident. She's boisterous. And she plays with impeccable pace, physicality, and intensity. And so it's kind of funny. We all as a staff collectively, I think after the first workout, just had stars in our eyes. And for me, specifically, I had players who had opportunities to get drafted that were very similar to her. So she's someone that we're really looking at as someone who can be a great leader on this team, having that SEC experience. She also played for Kelly Harper, my former head coach, who's now at Missouri. So I know that she knows what a winning culture is supposed to look like, because Kelly Harper's a winner. So excited that she can bring that and kind of help piggyback everything that Coach Nooner's implementing. And then we have a really wonderful incoming freshman, Jamari Milton, who's also from Texas, played at North Crowley High School, phenomenal player. She's going to be one of our point guards. She is even keel. She has great work ethic. She's a great facilitator. She's dynamic. She can use ball screens, and she can score at all 3 levels. So she's somebody that's come in. She hasn't even missed a beat. And another athlete in particular that our staff just was blown away by after our first initial encore workout with the ball in her hands. I mean, we knew right away that she was going to be able to lead this team. And like I was saying earlier, having a player-led team is a winning team. And a program, and our players listen to her, which I think is huge with her being so young. And I think with that kind of a combination of everyone, from grad students to freshmen, everyone kind of looks to her. She's cool, calm, and collected, but she plays with great pace and intensity and produces. So those are 2 people right off the bat. I think all of our post players, I'm not going to be biased here, but they're phenomenal. To be quite frank with you, this is the best group of bigs I've ever worked with at any level, any institution, including when I was a player. So I'm thrilled that they make my job easier. They're hungry. They want to learn, but they also just have such a great foundation too. So I think we're going to be in a great situation moving forward.
So you have done 3 Ironman triathlons, 2 half triathlons, 1 full Ironman.
Yes.
The full Ironman, just so people understand what we're talking about, 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, 26.2-mile run. That's 140 miles in 1 day. How'd you get started in this pursuit?
Gosh, I'm kind of exhausted hearing you say all that and listing off those numbers and statistics, because I'm hoping to do up one here in Omaha, Nebraska at some point this year, and kind of wore me out and listen to all that, and I'm thinking about all the training I have to do. But I actually started out, I think as a collegiate athlete, when you play at a high level, whether it's at the Division I level or a high level Division II athlete or playing professionally, there's just a fire that kind of burns inside, and hopefully it never goes out. It never did for me. And mentioning Jackie Stiles, one of my assistants, she was someone that I really admired a lot, and she was really into endurance sports. And worked so hard even as an assistant. I just got to see her unwavering work ethic, and I was so impressed by it, and just it was very inspiring. And so when I was done playing as an athlete and started coaching, I'm a really big believer in mental health and how important that is in training your mentality and your mindset, to be able to not only just, perform day to day, but be able to pour into other people. And what we do as coaches is very demanding. It requires a lot, and you don't really get a break. And so the way that I'm able to pour back into myself was the Ironman training. I know that sounds like kind of an oxymoron because it's so difficult, but you kind of reach that flow state. Those numbers that you talked about, running a full marathon after you've biked 100 plus miles, you're in a flow state of just hard work, and it's peaceful, it's relaxing. You kind of get into a rhythm and a flow, and it's a nice way to kind of turn off the X's and O's for a moment.
Describe the training routine. How do you prepare for one of these monsters?
Yeah, carefully, strategically. The first half Ironman I did, I wanted to do something that was tough that I had no experience in, because I just had been, when you're a high level athlete, typically you're training and doing the same sport for years and years and years, and I played basketball for over a decade and a half. And so stepping away from the sport, in terms of playing, I wanted to try something else. And so I just kind of looked at what would be something difficult and tough that I've never done before and would have to be humbled and learn something new. And so when Triathlon, Ironman specifically, because I didn't want to do any of the smaller ones, I wanted to just go for the kill right away. I had to hire a coach. I hired a swim coach because I grew up on a lake, but I had no idea how to swim competitively. And a marathon seemed really hard. So I was like, perfect, let's just combine all the three skill sets. And so this all kind of started when I was at St. Mary's University in Moraga, California. It was my first WCC job. I moved from a Division II head job in West Virginia out to California. And kind of the way I started was at that institution, we had workouts later in the day. So on the court. And so I would get to the weight room with the team in the morning, be there to support. And then I would hop in the pool and train either in town with a swim coach or on campus. Then I would hop into the office and do our meetings throughout the day. And if I was lifting myself, 3 to 4 times a week, that would only take about 30, 40 minutes. And then, that's one thing off the checklist. Boom, let's get onto the court. Let's do our team workouts, our individuals, team practice, whatever have you. And then I would either be biking or running at the end of the day. So it was a full gamut of to-dos. But, I just was really fortunate. I just believe you have 24 hours in a day, and great sleep's like 7 hours. So you have a lot of time. You have more than you think. And you only get one life to live. And so I've always just been a big believer of living life to the fullest, but also too, as a leader and a mentor, I just think you need to be a great example of what hard work looks like. If we're going to ask high level athletes to continue to push themselves and train consistently at a high level, what better way to show what that looks like? Producing a body of work that is really difficult, that requires a lot of consistency, than doing something like an Ironman.
Which of the 3 segments is your favorite?
I would have said the running. I've always kind of been a runner. I did cross country in high school a couple years. I have some runners in my family, but I love the road bike. I love biking. And it was something that I didn't even realize I would enjoy so much. But once you kind of get into the groove of things, you pop some music in, or you get to kind of throw your bike in the back of a car and see some new sights and bike around. There's nothing like it. When you get tired, you can always just hop off and take a break. You can't really do that in the pool or whatever body of water you're in. So, the road biking is great.
And I'm assuming this is open water swim?
Yes. So the other reason why I chose Ironman was you kind of can travel all over the world. They have races, from the half to the full worldwide. It's very popular in European countries and in the U.S. So. But depending on whatever race you do is kind of the geography of the race. So you can have an open water swim, which could be in a river, it could be in an ocean, obviously, or you can do lake swims as well. I know Lake Placid in New York, they do one that's like a flat run. It's a lake swim and a flat bike as well. And then other parts of the region, you can go up to Idaho and you're going to be biking over a mountain range. So everywhere is going to look kind of different. I have not tackled an ocean open water swim yet. I will get there. I don't know if I can swim for 3 miles over waves yet, but I've done river swims and lakes.
I have a friend who has a nightmare story about not being prepared for
You're never prepared.
The start of the open water
prepared.
swim, where it's basically like a rebounding drill with
piranha,
200 people.
Yes.
What's the strategy to get through that tangle of bodies and elbow your way to the front, I guess?
Yes, well, I'll backtrack. So I told you when I started this side passion of mine, I needed to hire a coach, and it was super humbling, to be a high-level athlete that's won championships and done all these things and not know how to do something at all, and be passed by people twice your age in a pool, and you can't even swim, a single lap. It's a very humbling thing, and but it made me a better coach, to be honest with you, because I'm learning how to do something for the first time, and sometimes as a basketball coach, you're asking players to do things they're not comfortable doing as well. But it was tough. You go through the series of, am I going to be able to do this? The part of the swimming is learning how to breathe underwater and learning, that ebb and flow of the inhale, exhale, and when to hold your breath, with the strokes and all those things. And you try to visualize what it's going to be like. I believe in, if you're going to do something you don't know how to do, you got to ask other people that have been there and done that. So thankfully, I have twin cousins who have done like 10, 15 Ironmans. And so I was able to get kind of their lived experiences, and they tell you, you're going to get kicked and hit and swam over. And so you try to mentally prepare, right, when you're getting ready to go do one of these things, but you can't prepare. You start at 5 or 6 in the morning, so it's dark, which means the water is going to be dark. It's pitch black. And so not only, you can't swim in a pitch black pool, you can't really simulate that unless you go swim early in the morning, which I never did. And you're going to laugh, but my first half Ironman, I never even swam in anything other than a pool. And so, and you're swimming in a wetsuit as well, which I had never done before either. So you have the elements of being in a wetsuit, being outside in the dark body of water, and then you add 1,000 people or, however many people are doing it. And it's an experience. You just have to laugh and trust the work, right? Trust the body of work that you've put in. And, thankfully, Ironmans, they're quite expensive, but they're so well staffed as well. So they have people with kayaks and buoys and all the things. So worst case scenario, you need a minute. You need to catch your breath and kind of like recalibrate. You can just grab onto a kayak and like chill out for a second.
I think that's what my friend Jeff had to do. The story he tells, he was utterly unprepared for the physical demands of starting.
There's no water. There's no water wings, unfortunately. Those are not allowed.
He needed a coach, I think. If Stanwood High School invites you to come on back, speak to students about playing sports in college, what's your advice?
Gosh, you know what? That's a great question. I think biggest thing is, people come from all walks of life and backgrounds, different faiths, but you need a great anchor. For me, I needed a strong faith, and that's what I anchored myself in. But if you want to take, a belief, aspect out of it, you need a great work ethic. You need an unwavering work ethic. And what that looks like is, rain, sun, good day, bad day, you're going to get the job done. Almost in kind of like a militaristic, mechanical way. And also a way where you can gauge your progress. I think that's really important too. Looking at numbers, looking at statistics, performance type metrics as well, on the court, off the court. Having a great work ethic is really important. But then I think also on the human side, having a support system, whether that's a familial support system, people at home that can advocate and have your back and cheer you on and speak life and positivity into you. Or if you don't have that, great coaches and mentors and teammates. I think that's really important too, because you're going to have tough days and you need people that are going to be pouring into you because you're pouring so much out in this effort. So I think the two things kind of go hand in hand.
Before we get to the last question, I want to go back and be helpful for the fans. You mentioned two names, Jamari Milton and Mariah Vincent. Did not really give any details. Mariah is a 6-foot sophomore guard. As you said, she's from Houston and a transfer from Missouri. And then Jamari Milton is also a guard, a 5'7" freshman from Fort Worth, North Crowley High School. Just to check that box so fans know a little bit more about who we're talking with. Okay, we'll wrap it up. What's the book, a movie, TV show, podcast? What are you listening to or reading that you would recommend people check out?
Man, I this has absolutely nothing to do with anything we've been talking about, but I love the TV show. I'm a binge watcher. I love movies, but I love binge watching anything where I can sit down and watch 3-4 episodes at a time. Long road trips, long flights. It's a nice way for me to unplug when I'm not watching game film. House of Cards. I know it's a political show, but there's lots of twists and turns in there. It's kind of like a mystery thriller, suspense type show, kind of murder mystery type thing. So totally different from anything basketball and sports related, but it's kind of intentional that way. So definitely, I think there's 4 or 5 seasons, and it's a binge worthy one.
Kevin Spacey,
Yep.
Robin. What's the female lead name?
She's fabulous. Yeah. I should know her last name.
She was in Princess Bride. That's what I remember her most from.
She's great.
Highly entertaining, no doubt.
Yes.
Rachel Swartz is the new women's basketball assistant coach. Rachel, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
Driven to center and well struck, and Lucas is there. She's got it, and that is the ball game. And look at the celebration for Wichita State as they have ended the Cowgirls' 14-game winning streak in a dandy from Wilkins Stadium, 8-7.